Forsaken is just kind of boring and barely even enjoyable, even if you're the one winning. And Pillar Chase 2 is solely carried by the fact that its killers are from already established franchises.
Let's see. Hot dog, taco, hamburger.
The only great thing about both games is their music. Rage bait aside, let's actually try to talk about these two games. Starting with Forsaken, it definitely fits the survivor versus killer genre far better than Pillar Chase 2 does. The focus on teamwork, however, could be a good or bad thing depending on your playstyle. Ironically enough though, in Pillar Chase 2 you're more likely to be with other people even though there's no real need to be next to anybody. That is unless you're going against the Vita Mimic or something. But who plays that guy? Let's be real. Unlike in Forsaken, with Pillar Chase 2, you do not need teamwork to survive. Sure, it can help, but it's definitely not something you really have to focus on. While doing the objectives as a team, just like in Forsaken, can lower the time and help your odds as a survivor, when it comes to Pillar Chase 2, you can just run solo and 9 times out of 10, you should be fine. The only true benefit of not running solo in Pillar Chase 2 is that if you get chased, you just gotta run faster than the other guy. I hope that flashbang helped him. I really did. I really do hope. Nope, he died. Two of them died. Flashbang did nothing. Jokes aside, the biggest difference between these two games would be the survivor gameplay. In Forsaken, you have styles that clearly fit into a more team-based setting. Elliot and Builderman being more support focused, with Guest and Shaletsky being more on the defensive / stunning side. And then you have Chance.
Gun!
You're basically picking your role on a team and playing it. Just like how you wouldn't expect a TF2 spy to try and heal you, you wouldn't expect an Elliot to try and stun the killer. In Pillar Chase 2, it's far more free reign. The different perks allow you to make your own sort of build tailored to your needs, while items can be seen as something extra. You can run the greedy perk and focus on coins and profit, or you can prioritize speed and stamina at the cost of HP. Basically, Forsaken will give you the burger, while Pillar Chase 2 gives you the ingredients. While I see those things as the biggest difference survivor-wise, there are far more things that really can make or break the game for you. Things like maps and findable items, and of course, the objectives. In both games, doing the objectives lowers the clock, but depending on the survivors you're playing with, you can really melt that timer in both games. I will say, in Forsaken, the objective is much more serious and far more dangerous. Unlike in Pillar Chase, where the objectives can take up to 2, 3, or even 4 seconds at max, in Forsaken, the objectives keep you stationary and take much longer to complete. This can leave you as a sitting duck for killers such as 1x1x or John Doe. Another thing I'd say Forsaken 100% got right was changing the objective locations. Unlike in Pillar Chase 2, where the objectives are always in the same spots, in Forsaken, sometimes the generators can be in a different location. This makes it less memory based, unlike Pillar Chase 2 of course, which I believe is a pretty good game design. But that's survivor talk. What about the killer gameplay?
I'll always come back.
The main difference when it comes to killers would be variety. Pillar Chase 2 has a bigger roster and each killer is quite unique, so finding one that fits your style is far easier than in Forsaken. Unless you're a mod using all those admin stuff or whatever, I don't know. When it comes to general gameplay, the Forsaken killer's niches are much more noticeable, and there's just a lot more to take into account in the form of status effects. 1x1x being more range focused with the slowing down and the stopping effects, Jason being your classic slasher with a severe lack of range, John Doe being the type of anti-stun with good trapping and pressure, while Cool Kid is definitely the more well-rounded type with a lot of over-the-map traversability. The elephant in the room here would be the fact that Forsaken killers have health bars, meaning in theory you could kill them. In Pillar Chase 2, that is not the case. You'd be lucky to even land a Doomfist punch in a normal Pillar Chase 2 round. As a survivor, stamina in both games is pretty much your lifeline. Even as a killer in Forsaken, the gap in stamina and speed you have compared to a survivor isn't actually that much in their base. For Pillar Chase, the constant variables and differences between killer speed and stamina along with the survivor speed and stamina makes every chase different, or sometimes not even a chase at all. Forsaken definitely favors looping and juking when compared to Pillar Chase 2, which is more so just straight up running. This means if you're the type of killer with tunnel vision, you're gonna have a harder time in Forsaken than you would in Pillar Chase 2. In Pillar Chase 2, there's a few killers with teleporting abilities and even more with just really good mobility options to help close the distance. In Forsaken, there's more status effects than there are general mobility moves. Cool Kid's Dragon Fist is probably the only thing I'd call a mobility move.
Look at the pace. Yeah. Medkit.
Yeah, I think it's...
Something Pillar Chase 2 does way better than Forsaken, I'd say, is truly making you feel like a killer. In Pillar Chase 2, you don't have to worry about getting jumped by a server full of Shaletskis. You're unstoppable and it's evident. Like in real horror games, a monster is far scarier when you know you can't actually kill them or fight back against them. In Pillar Chase 2, you're put right into that seat of the monster. Killer gameplay overall just feels far less of a chore than it does in Forsaken, to the point where even if you lose as a killer in Pillar Chase, it's still pretty fun regardless. Shifting over to Forsaken, killer gameplay requires you to be a lot more attentive and requires just a lot more genuine skill, which can be fun if you like the challenge. Winning in Forsaken as a killer is far more rewarding than it is in Pillar Chase 2. This, of course, isn't taking into account different maps, different players, all that type of stuff, because after all, every round is not going to be the same, which is why I'm just speaking in a more general sense. Now, with those categories out of the way, what about the other things that are still significant to the game? Things such as, in regards to music, I have to give both games a pretty even score here. In Forsaken and in Pillar Chase, the music is just all around great. I genuinely cannot pick one or the other. When it comes to lore and overall story, Forsaken easily takes it. This is pretty obvious too, considering the description of the survivors and the killers, and the voice lines depending on what survivor or killer you're using. When it comes to overall atmosphere, I'd have to give it to Pillar Chase 2. Since you're only limited to first person as a survivor, the fear factor hits much harder. That and the maps really do help strengthen the sense of gloom and horror that the game is trying to go for, compared to Forsaken. There's just a lot more care in that department when you put 2 and 2 together. When it comes to overall mechanics, both games have their ups and downs. I'd say Forsaken has much more to really learn, while Pillar Chase 2 is far easier to just jump right into. Content and replayability wise, this one can also easily go to Pillar Chase 2. Even if we take the killer roster out, Pillar Chase just has much more to do, different objective types, different game modes, more items, more maps, if we exclude private servers. However, Forsaken is still an alpha, so this can definitely change. Now for both games, they have a fair bit of cosmetics, so I'd say it's pretty 50-50. But taking out the fact that Pillar Chase 2 has more killers, I'd say Forsaken has a little bit of an edge in cosmetics, mainly because the killer cosmetics, most of them aren't just recolors, and the survivor cosmetics just have a little bit more spice to them, if you know what I mean. Now, which game is just better? Both games have their clear flaws, like any of the genre. Maps seeming too one-sided, hitboxes and ping causing you to get hit by things that aren't even on your screen, but in all honesty, it comes down to what you're actually looking for. Forsaken follows the Dead by Daylight format, while Pillar Chase 2 is more unique and is definitely more of a horror game than the other. You'll never catch anyone in Forsaken screaming like they do in Pillar Chase 2. Please. What's better is that you can either be the one screaming,
I think I deserve to live after that. I think I deserve to live.
Or the one causing it.
Well.
The grind, however, can be a bit more tedious when compared to Forsaken. I will say though, Pillow Chase does deliver in being a horror game. In Forsaken, you don't have to constantly check over your shoulder for some sort of jump scare, or for a QTE that says jump. Now, if you're looking for something more akin to Dead by Daylight, Forsaken is definitely the better pick. It's far more skill based and the atmosphere supports that, along with the current gameplay loop. In Forsaken, there's a subtle push to do more than just run and be fearful than like in Pillow Chase 2. Even as a killer, running around aimlessly thinking you have all the power won't do you much good. Your choices in Forsaken carry much more weight than they will in Pillow Chase 2.
You're a stunner. What are you doing hiding here? Yeah, what are you doing? Why is he just sitting here? Go help that guy. You know what? I'll do your job for you.
Not just that, but the objectives, I guess you can say, take more brain power, because in Pillow Chase, it's more of just memory. You can either be a team player and help everyone out, or you can just be a useless taff, like me. The fact the game is still in alpha also means there's much more to expect in the future. However, if we're just gonna go off of popularity, then I guess you could give Forsaken the trophy if you really want some type of winner. But what are your thoughts? Which game do you prefer and why? I'm sure all the discussions in the comments will be respectful and nothing bad will happen. Because really, why is it called Invisibility 3? If I'm invisible, why can't he see me? That doesn't make sense. Invisibility should just be invisibility. At that point, I'm just translucent. I'm just see-through. The main reason I didn't go over the communities and the fandoms is because I do not want to look up Forsaken fan art.